and thank you for joining me again today for the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. If you haven't already, I would love if you would leave a rating or a review for the podcast. This really helps to get the podcast more visible to other people, and my big hope is that I can reach and help as many lost families as possible. So I also wanted to share another very exciting milestone. I just recently published the 200th story for Project Finding Your Rainbow. If you're not familiar, this is a project I started about 2 years ago. There is a rainbow skirt that travels from one lost family to the next. They wear the skirt for pictures, and then the pictures and the stories are shared to help people tell their stories and also to help raise awareness for pregnancy and infant loss. So far, it's been to 42 different states and 3 other countries, and those are the UK, Australia, and Canada. And then it is also currently traveling to Peru for someone to use it there. And I'm super proud of how far it's come. And if you are interested in participating or want to read any of the stories, you can find out more information on journeyforjasmine.com. Today, I am talking with Maxyne, who shares about the loss of her son. She also discusses how she didn't receive the proper care from her doctor after her loss, despite continually letting her doctor know that she was not okay and that she needed more help.
Hi, everyone. I am here with Maxyne today. Maxyne, can you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Maxyne. I'm 28. I live in Central California. I have a 7-year-old son, and so on my free time, he's really into baseball, so we do baseball things together. And then after my loss, I had started a garden, so I'm into that right now too.
Oh, I love that. What do you grow in your garden? Is it like flowers or vegetables or?
Um, I've tried it a little bit of everything so far. Nothing has really stuck. I have lettuce, arugula, that's doing really well. I'm trying potatoes. I tried jalapenos, but I don't know how it's going so far. And then I have a few like indoor house plants, like string of pearls. I just got this one. I think it's pronounced pothos or pothos.
Yeah, so it sounds like
So
you're trying a bunch of different ones.
yeah, it's fun.
So can you tell me a little bit about your lost journey or your lost story?
Yes. So I suffered a loss. I might cry. It's still fresh.
I'm sorry, it's okay.
Hold on. Sorry.
No, it's okay. You don't have to go
Sorry.
into, a lot of detail if it's fresh and painful.
It's super fresh, but okay, so okay, so I found out I was pregnant last July, and I scheduled my I don't know what it's called, my first OB appointment. So I didn't know how many weeks I was, but then I started bleeding when I think I was about 10 weeks. I went to the ER, everything, they did all the testing and stuff, and the doctor said, well, it looks like just a UTI, and he sent me home with antibiotics. Um, and then I went to my doctor's appointment a few weeks after that, and he said it was not a UTI. I was diagnosed with placenta previa. So instead of the placenta being up above the baby, it was down below. Sorry. So his placenta was down below. But he was hoping later on that the placenta would go where up above where it's supposed to be. Um, so I had to be put on pelvic rest until it moved. Um, and then everything was okay till about 21 weeks when I started bleeding again. I went to the ER, and everything was okay. They monitored me for probably like 4 hours. And then they sent me home, and I had to stay home from work until I see my doctor again. And then he let me stay home for a few more weeks, but then he sent me back to work. And I I got diagnosed with COVID, or I tested positive for COVID January 15th. And then I lost my train of thought. Sorry. So after I got diagnosed with COVID, they advised me to do like a medication treatment through the IV at the hospital. So I went in and I did that, and everything was okay. The baby was okay. My symptoms were fine. I went back to work, and then I had a doctor's appointment on a Thursday. It was just like the regular one, so it wasn't like an ultrasound. But they did the heart rate. They did the heart rate, and everything was fine. It was like 140 something. The weekend went by, and I remember feeling him move because my boyfriend, he plays the drums. So when he plays it in the house, or when he would play it inside, the baby would just move so much. It was so funny, like he knew. So he was practicing, and I remember feeling him all weekend. And then Tuesday, I'm gonna get a little choked up. This is when it happens.
It's okay.
So Tuesday I went to work, and then I went to my ultrasound appointment, and that's when they told me, I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat. So I did some blood work at the hospital while I was there. They sent me to the other hospital where I was going to deliver, and where my doctor was on call that evening. So he seen us that night, and he said, I'm going to deliver you tomorrow, after everybody gets some rest. So I got sent home. I didn't rest though, but yeah, he was born on February 2nd. So his birthday is 2/2/22. I think it's cool.
It's a special day.
But yeah, I think we did all the testing. They tested his placenta, and he took a piece of his thigh, and they can't figure out why, it happened. But I believe that it was because I had COVID.
Did the doctor say anything about it being related to that? Or, I've heard of a lot of losses happening because of COVID. I was just wondering if your doctors ever thought that could be a cause.
Well, they were unsure because they said when they tested my placenta, it had antibodies which were attacking the placenta, but they didn't know which came first, the antibodies or the COVID.
Right.
So they couldn't answer that. But I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Does it make it harder not knowing an exact cause, or do you think that would even help at all to know what the cause was?
I don't know. I feel like either way it would. I mean, not knowing is sucky.
Yeah.
But I think knowing would hurt just as much.
Right. Did you have like supportive family and friends around you during your loss and after your loss?
Yes, everybody was so comforting. Even my coworkers and stuff. Everybody.
Did you talk about your loss very much, like after it happened, or did you keep it more private?
I mean, like we had to tell the family. So I guess like our family knows. But I like my privacy. I don't like to overshare with people that I'm not comfortable with yet. So I like to keep it to myself, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So why do you think it's important to share your story and talk about your loss now?
Um, I think it's just important to share because after I shared, with some people, I found out that someone was like, "Oh, it happened to my sister," or "I know somebody," and it's more common than you think or that you know. So it's because how do I say it? Um, okay, I I'm surrounded by comfortable. How do you say it? I have a lot of people that comfort me, and I'm supported so much. But sometimes I just feel so alone, and it's a terrible club to be a part of, but it's so welcoming. When you're with another lost mom.
I totally agree with you. I after our loss, I had, I was lucky to have supportive people like you in my life, but you're so right. I mean, even when you're surrounded by, tons of people, it just is so lonely. And you just feel like, you're like the only one who's ever been through it, or, that nobody really knows what it's like because they haven't actually been through it themselves. So
Yeah,
it is really nice to be, I guess, validated by other lost families who understand, what you've gone through.
yeah.
Are there any aspects of loss that you think need more attention or that you think need to be talked about more?
I feel like with my experience, um, I had a difficult time, and I feel like I still am with like postpartum care, because like all of my visits with my doctor, I would tell him, I'm not okay, and then we would do the testing, and obviously it was, um, I would have a poor score, and he was concerned, but he never did anything. He never suggested like, hey, let me send you to somebody to talk to, or he never did anything more. And every single visit, I would tell him, I'm not okay. It's getting bad, meaning like my mental health. And then I remember at my last visit, it was getting time. It was about, I would say, 3 months postpartum. I was still struggling, with my mental health. And I would tell him, but he would just tell me, well, maybe you should start thinking about going back to work. I think you need to do stuff like go to work. And I'm telling him, I'm not comfortable yet. Um, and I had to tell him, that day of my loss at work was the last place where everything was fine. So to me, it was a traumatic thing, like to go back to.
Right.
And also, I had a coworker who just happened to have the same due date as me because our due dates were March 31st, but I ended up delivering, February 2nd. But I don't think I was ready to go back to work and see her, and like it's okay for her to talk about her baby, but I don't know if I would have been comfortable yet, hearing it.
Right.
Um, so even when I would tell my doctor, I'm not okay, I need help, he would just say, "Oh, let's go back to work." So that last visit, my score had gotten so bad on the little test. He said, sorry. Um, I'm sorry, it's still a little hard.
It's okay.
So my last score, it was so bad. He looked at me and he said, "Well, there's nothing else I can do for you, but you can come back in 2 weeks, and I'm gonna send you back to work." So I left the office and I booked my 2 week appointment, but I went home and I thought, why am I gonna go back to you? If you're telling me I can't do anything else for you, kind of like figure it out yourself. I feel like you could have done more for me knowing my loss, you know?
Well, it's very frustrating too that you're repeatedly telling him that you're not okay and he's not doing anything for you. I mean, he could have, like you said, sent you to see, like a mental health person to talk to, or I mean, there's so many things he could have done. And I find that like it actually makes me really angry that he just flat out said, there's nothing I can do for you.
Yeah. And I know that I should have probably booked myself an appointment soon. I have started therapy now, but I know I should have done it sooner. But honestly, like when you're grieving, you don't think, you just go, and it's like I'm not thinking about booking myself doctor's appointments or whatever, or cooking dinner. I'm thinking, like I want my baby.
Right. I feel like you just kind of, you just have to go through the motions sometimes, like just do what you need to do to like get through the day and you're not thinking about anything extra or anything else but
Yeah,
just, your grief.
right.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to talk to somebody now. I actually went to um, counseling a few months after my loss as well, and I found it hard but helpful.
Yes. I've only gone to one visit so far, but so far it feels so like relieving.
It's kind of nice too to be with somebody who, who doesn't judge how you're feeling and who just, just listens and actually provides helpful suggestions on ways to deal with it.
Yeah, yes.
So, do you have any advice for anybody who's going through a loss?
Um, Definitely advocate for yourself when you're at the doctor's. Like I know it's hard, especially when you're grieving a loss, but definitely think about yourself. Like you have to be okay first. Um, and it's okay to go and ask for help, because everybody needs it sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's something I struggled with as well is knowing that, when we don't like doctors, it's okay to switch doctors and it's okay to speak up for ourselves. And I think that's hard for so many of us. It was hard for me.
Yeah. It's hard to think about, but it's something oh, I know I definitely need.
Did you find it hard to grieve and then also have to take care of your son?
Yes, um because sometimes he would just say like, "Oh, let's, play games or let's watch a movie or do whatever." Can you even honestly, when you would ask me to cook dinner, it was such a like task and I feel guilty um like feeling like, oh, you want me to cook dinner, but
Right.
I'm the mom and I have to be a mom.
Right. I found it very hard too. My son was 3, or he was only 3 at the time of our loss. And I felt the same way. I struggled with the guilt of it too. He needed me, but it was really hard to like be 100% there. And they don't understand, what you're going through, what we're going through, but it's hard.
Yeah, definitely hard.
Is there anything else that you want to share about loss in general or anything else?
Um, no. Sorry I cried so much.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's really hard to, I think it's even harder to speak our stories sometimes than it is to write them.
Yeah, I was writing my notes and everything was okay. And then I was like listening to some of your episodes and I was getting a little like it was like relatable, so it was a little bit emotional to listen to. So I was like, okay, hold it together, but then nope.
It's okay. I think a lot of us feel the same way. I still cry a lot when I tell Jasmine's story. When I was
Oh.
recording the one for my first episode, her story, I cried. So it's okay.
Okay, good.
Well, I really appreciate you, taking the time to, share your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Maxyne, for being willing to share your story with us. I know it can be so hard, especially with the loss still being newer and more recent. And it means a lot to me that you would trust me to help share your story. I just find it so frustrating that Maxyne continually told her doctor that she needed help and then still was not given the help that she needed. I know there's so many of us that have been in this exact same position. There's so many doctors who don't give lost moms, or even just moms in general, the attention and the care that they need. We just went through something completely traumatic, and there's barely any follow up appointments or any guidance of what we're supposed to do next or how we're supposed to handle and deal with our grief. Some doctors are really great at helping after loss, but so many are still very much lacking. So if you ever feel that you're not getting the help you need, please reach out to another doctor who can help you. You don't have to go through this alone, and you do truly deserve to get the best care possible. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and remember, we are all in this together.